A beautiful morning to you. You're listening to the Midday Express here on 92.5 Enugu's Dream FM. Studio time check is 11:03 a.m. and my name is Clinton. It's good to be here. But just before the show commences properly, I have a couple of guests who are here with me in the studio this morning. All right. And together we'll be looking at contract transparency in Nigeria. They're going to be giving us a general overview of what it is. But just before I let the cat out of the bag, let me introduce the guests that I have in the studio here with me. Now, with me this morning, I have Nwalum Ogichukwu, who is the Executive Director for Desri. Yeah, good morning to you, madam.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, yes, it's good to have you.
Good morning, listeners.
Good morning. How was your weekend?
Well, fine. Thank you, my dear.
All right. And I also have Obinna Nebo Collins, who is the president for AfriPod. Yeah?
Thank you very much.
All right. It's good. Good morning to you. How was your weekend, my brother?
Beautiful. Thank you.
All right. So today, this morning together, we are going to be looking at contract transparency in Nigeria. So, madam, tell us, what is contract transparency?
Okay, so before I talk about contract transparency, let me say that this is a project of Disclose the Deal campaign. And Disclose the Deal campaign, it's a global campaign. That global campaign is being championed by Publish What You Pay. Publish What You Pay is a coalition of civil society organizations that pushed for transparency in extractive industry. It has over 1,000 members across many countries of the world, and Nigeria happens to be one of them. So the need for contract transparency, it's also the need to push government to disclose some of the contracts they have done. So when we talk about contract transparency, we are saying that Nigeria is almost the 12th largest producer of oil in the world, and almost the largest in Africa. So and we have also quite a number of undeveloped mineral resources, because there is a lot of mining going on in Nigeria, and we also hold quite a number of natural gas. So that positions Nigeria to be a rich mineral resource country, and showing that we have a natural resource from God that He has endowed this country with. And this being a resource, it also positions that it's a property that we already have, because oil and gas and mining contributes a lot to our socio-economic in Nigeria. It also contributes to our GDP. It contributes to a large extent our export in this country. So why I'm making this analysis is for us to see the importance. So if this is what it positions, it means that it is a resource or a property that is jointly owned by government and the citizens. So government also being a representative by our constitution, government holds the mandate to make laws that guide us, to speak things on behalf of the citizens, and this has given them the right to negotiate contracts on behalf of the citizens. So how will citizens know what government is doing on their behalf if it is not if they are not in the known? If there is no public disclosure of all those contracts that government has entered on behalf of the citizens. So this is why the joint call for having a contract, disclosing those contracts came to be. And disclosing the contract is not just disclosing half of it, but it helps citizens to know, okay, this is our natural resources and this is what government is doing. So in Nigeria currently, the Disclose the Deal campaign is being implemented by Divine Era Development and Social Rights Initiative. It is a non-governmental organization in collaboration with its partner Mawa Foundation. But this is being championed by Publish What You Pay, and in Nigeria you have Publish What You Pay members.
Okay. Wow, that's nice. But I have another question. Is it just in Nigeria?
Okay, so I already said that this is not just in Nigeria, because Publish What You Pay, as I rightly said before, it's a global thing. Okay. It happens, in fact, as we speak, about 58 countries are signed on to EITI. EITI is Extractive Industry Transparency Initiative. It's also a global initiative that Nigeria has committed onto. So EITI is also pushing for accountable and transparent management of natural resources of countries that have committed to it. So Nigeria, being committed to this, went ahead to establish NETI. That's the Nigerian version of the global EITI. Okay. So that's also guiding a lot of things that we are doing. Okay. If you look at the provisions of EITI, the global EITI, which Nigeria has adopted, we have provision for contract transparency and disclosure of contract. It's a key component of contract transparency. Wow,
that's very elaborate of you. Thank you very much. Obinna, over to you. You want to share with us more light on what Mrs. Enwalum here has talked about before I move on to the next question?
Oh yeah, so a few things I want to add up is that extractive industry is very sensitive.
Okay. How is it sensitive?
Yeah, because it happens to be the hallmark or the strong base of country's revenue, sources of income. So just like Mr. Oge said, that Nigeria is like a minerals-based country. We depend on oil and gas largely for our exports and also GDP, foreign exchange and import, because we understand the issues that are surrounding dollar scarcity and some of these economic issues which happens when certain mismanagement in the in extractive industry happens, and we don't get to see the result in the economy. So the what we are all saying in a nutshell is for open contracting, a system where the contract governance or contract initiative is citizen driven and also protect the general interest of the public, and government can also be able to negotiate properly for the best interest of the people, so that they don't lose out on the negotiating table to all these economic mafias who always take advantage of some illegalities or some shortcomings within the government angle to navigate their way, to exploitation, the people. So yeah, that's just a bit of it. Why I try to make it is so that it will not sound too foreign, as if we are discussing mining in Saudi Arabia or in Libya. This is something that happens in our backyard. So, for instance, in Enugu, let me bring it down to Enugu.
Oh, please do.
Yeah, there is mining going on in some communities, coal mining going on. So this is something that has to do with extractive industry. So when we say extractive industry, people should not think it's only about oil and gas. Anything that you are taking away from the ground as mineral, and you know that naturally that most minerals belong to the government. So anything you are taking away from the ground that's supposed to serve the interest of the public, or supposed to be a source of revenue for the general public, the people should also be involved. The people should also be aware, and the government should also take strong measures to ensure that the interest of the people is protected at all time. Yeah.
Wow, thank you very much. All right, back to you, Mrs. Ogechukwu. Has Nigeria made any commitments so far to this?
Yeah, a lot of commitments have been made, and I did mention one of them earlier on when I talked about NETI, NETI is the Nigerian Extractive Industry Transparency Initiative, and that's Nigerian version of the global AITI. And that's we have the act that established that agency in Nigeria. That agency sees to the affairs of managing the issues, all issues relating to extractive. Okay, so Nigeria has also adopted and key into the Open Government Partnership. That's the OGP, which also encourages government to open most of the transactions that they are doing, issues of governance, be open to it. So in OGP we have co-creation, where the civil society organizations and government sits in the table to look at the plans and policies we want to move on with. So these are part of the things that they have done. There is also Nigeria has also signed the Petroleum Industrial Act.
Yes.
That was done in 2021. Okay, so the Petroleum Industrial Act have a lot of input into what is happening in the extractive sector.
Sorry, can you give us one or two of the inputs done so far? I mean, as a result of the PIA.
Well, there is yet to be an assessment of the impact of the PIA.
But they are there already.
Yes, but I bet you that a lot of things has also happened. I will tell you that for AITI, for PA, it has also bring the governance of NNPC used to be government owned, but now NNPC is now a limited liability company. Even though government have a lot of input into what happens in NNPC.
They have majority of the shares.
Yes, majority of the shares. So that's one thing, innovation that the PIA has done. So, but in terms of what happened down to the communities, we are yet to do a full impact assessment of the contribution of PIA. But I'm sure that this is something that many organizations, including our organization, have interest in. Again, Nigeria have also enacted the Freedom of Information Act. The Freedom of Information Act gives leverage and opportunity for citizens to know what happens in government. It's not, again, the era of secrecy. People tell you that when they come to offices, public offices, they take oath of secrecy. No. The Freedom of Information gives that leverage that citizens request for information and they get information from what is happening. So now through the OGP, CAC is already implementing the beneficial ownership, where we know who owns what happens in the company. It's not just a shadow of what we know. We want to know real things. In details, what is happening. Who are the beneficiaries of the companies? Who are the stakeholders that owns the company? These are some of the initiatives. And you also have the Public Procurement Act, which Nigeria has also enacted. The Public Procurement Act ensures that a due process is followed when you want to give contracts. There should be standard procedure for it. These are part of the innovations that has happened in Nigeria. And we also have the Nigerian Minerals and Mining Act of 2007. These are some of the legal principles that also brings innovations on transparency and openness and the procedure of contracting in Nigeria.
Wow. That's quite elaborate. Thank you very much. So what this leads to the next question. What are the legal perspectives to this? Okay, Obina, would you want to chip in on that? The legal perspectives to all that Madam has just said.
Yeah, just like she mentioned some laws that are in place, and those laws have been very active. It's just that we have to ask what is the level of implementation of those laws, like the PIB, the Petrol Industry Bill.
It's now an act, so it's PIA.
Yeah, it's PIA now. Yeah, to the glory of God.
Because it took some time
to
get that bill to pass.
Yeah, so now that the bill has been passed, what measures are we putting in place as a country, as a system to implement those bills? Or do we make the act one of those acts that we just pass to please the public and we will dump? You understand?
Yes.
So civil society, like public coalitions and groups like Public Sure to Pay, are taking strong measures and working with host communities to ensure that the act is well understood, because it's one thing to have a law, it's another thing to publicize the law and make the people understand what the law stands for, so that
and what they also tend to gain from
exactly. So it's not about just having a law, but also they can also use that law to hold the government accountable and also hold business partners accountable. Nigeria also have a Extractive Industry Act, which you also mentioned, that such laws you can only hear about them if you are into civil society that work in the extractive industry, or if you have an issue in the industrial court. But how many Nigerians are aware, especially those host communities, that where this issue of extraction comes into play? Because we talk about legal action, we talk about legal perspective. It's about law. Who is law made for? Those businesses in those areas, are they really following the line of law? For instance, across Nigeria, mining is going on. We know about Zamfara issue. We know about crisis in Zamfara. Is mining, it has to do with mining. So if we don't apply those laws or legal actions on those extractive activities going on across board in different states in Nigeria, it's very dangerous that what happened in Zamfara, or what is happening in Zamfara, may replicate itself, where we have different parties contesting without understanding the boundaries at which they should operate. You understand?
Yes.
Yeah. So, but the ultimate of this thing is we have the 1999 Constitution, which
amended.
Which by the virtue of its existence supersedes every other bylaw. You understand? Now, how does generally the Constitution itself protects the citizens from the perspective of economic benefit? Because Nigeria being a member of AET, the key principle of AET is to ensure that those extractive activities serve the general interest of the citizens, and the government do it in a way that is transparent and accountable for the citizens. So what the purpose of the law is to ensure that they ensure that accountability and transparency. Now we are talking about these extractive issues. We're talking about how many states in Nigeria has procurement Bureau of Public Procurement? You hardly see it. So when you want to even make certain level of intervention, even in your own locality, within the Nigerian space, where will you even go to make the intervention? Who will you meet to ask the question? So these are some of the issues that is being a hurdle, serve as a hurdle, to legal operations to happen in real terms. Because, for instance, across the 30 states, you can only point a few states that have a bureau for public procurement, whereas the act may be there at the state, but there is no office designated for public procurement. These are some of the issues that affect. It may sound a bit technical, but I'm struggling to narrow it so that even our audience can understand better. But this is a strong base of the economy, that if things go wrong, then it will affect the general livelihood of the people. And just like we are seeing it today, we hear the issue of dollar scarcity. We know how we affect our economy, even down to the market women say there is no dollar. That's why certain certain products
are inflated.
We understand what is happening in Nigeria oil and gas industry. The common fuel, the petrol we buy, we know the cost at which we are buying. Some of these things we overlook because of the hurdles of these laws. We don't really understand what is happening in those industries, especially extractive industries. It's affecting our daily life. So the general purpose of this legal framework is to ensure there is a guideline that monitors or that is serves as a model, a model where everybody must know his or her own lapses, and government can also measure the activities of some of the individuals and companies involved in extractive activities. We have the popular case of Ogoni.
Sorry, before you move on, you talked about people knowing their lapses. Once the lapses are identified, who calls them out? Who calls who out, and how is he addressed?
Good. That's where citizens' action comes to be. What we are doing here today is part of the initiative to begin to look into that angle and also understand where necessary government has to strengthen his capacity. Who calls them out? We are, like civil society organizations, serve the citizen interest. We can raise our voice towards certain actions that has been perpetrated, and if government may be ignorant or may not be aware of that, we drag government into taking action, because there must be a bilateral agreement before any company or individual venture into extractive activities. So we have to, sometimes we even request for a copy of the agreement so that we, even as citizens, can also review. That's where
sorry, and is it provided to you when you ask?
In some cases you get it. Okay. Just like, I don't want to be like sound too foreign. In Abuja, for instance, in the national, there is a bureau for public procurement. At least there is level of transparency at the national level, but it's at the state level that we have some of these issues, and some of these mining activities are happening in the states. Even the states may be a third party, because the contract may be signed through the federal, but the state may also be aware. But when you now request for certain information from the states, even applying your Freedom of Information Act, using it to even request for the information, the state doesn't, even some state does not respond to the Freedom of Information Act. So that's why I told you that at the national level there is level of responsiveness, but where we have challenges is at the state level. One is that if you use we as organization have used public Freedom of Information Act to request information at the state level, and we are denied that information against the provisions of that act. That's one. Two, some states does not have a bureau for public procurement, but they have a law, Public Procurement Act. You understand? But there's no office designated. You cannot find a building or even a room where you can say that this is a bureau made for public procurement, where you can now get this information. And if you approach some ministries like Ministry of Works, they will tell you that you should go to the government house. Who will you meet at the government house? That's the question. You can't go to the office of the governor and begin to ask questions. So I want to, if that's
well, at least they should tell you they should direct you to who you should ask.
Exactly. Right? That's where the challenge, because they will direct you to so many people. You keep running around
in circles.
So this is to address the issue of who you meet and how you meet people. But the general interest of this issue is that we as citizens' voice is bringing the attention of the masses and also the attention of the government to the activities some of these industry players are taking. For instance, the Ogoni issue has lingered for long. The Ogoni cleanup, I don't know if you have followed it, has lingered for long, and is a repetitive issue in every administration. I think it started from Jonathan administration to Buhari administration. They inherited it. They did a lot of flagging off and all that. Yet the cleanup is still a major issue. As I'm talking to you, it's still a debate even at the international level between Shell and the host community in Ogoni. Are you getting the point?
Yes.
Now, it has been discovered that Shell has started selling off some of their oil wells that are connected to the oil spillage in that Ogoni that are connected to environmental degradation. Why is it that they are selling it off without taking the necessary measure to correct the mistake they made? Who's supposed to hold them accountable? It's supposed to be the government.
Exactly.
But now the citizens' voice is confronting the government to take the necessary action, because Section 14B of the Constitution made it clear that is the primary role or responsibility of the government is protect lives and properties, which including land, which including the fishing, which including the farm,
the water too.
The water we drink, the environment. So if those kind of spillage happen, why is it that the government is not taking the necessary strong action to be able to mop up and clean up Ogoni? You understand? This is just one of the most popular campaigns. If you go to Niger Delta, for instance, you see a lot of them there. If you go to Lagos State, you see a lot of extractive activities that even chased out communities from their whole station. It may happen in the southeast soon.
Oguta,
yes,
Imo State.
In Imo State too, there is a lingering issue in Imo State. It may not be too popular, but if we allow it to escalate, it will even be worse than what happened in the Niger Delta. You understand? Because confrontations are already going on in that location, and civil society is not sleeping. Civil society, we are taking our necessary actions to bring the attention of the government to this kind of issue. But however, we only have a limit to what we can do. But government should know that it serves the public, and government should be responsive to public call in taking the necessary action to avert possible damage or suitable escalation of crisis that may erupt. That's what happened in Niger Delta and led to Niger Delta militancy. It may happen in some other places. You remember of I made mention of Zamfara crisis. So these things are just let me allow we'll get to.
All right. So this leads to you want to say something?
Okay. So yes, for me, he has mentioned a lot of things, but they are not just happening in Niger Delta. So they are also happening in Southeast. You also have a lot of issues in Port Harcourt, in Calabar and other places. So, but let me say that sometimes it's because both government and the citizens don't understand the need to disclose contracts that they have entered into. Because if government understands the benefits to them disclosing contracts, it will help them to disclose it. And what are these benefits? You look at, you will agree with me that citizens have lost hope in government, especially with the rate of inflation happening in this country. The ordinary man will tell you, I am surviving. It's not that I am living. Go out and ask anybody, how are you doing? Say, I'm surviving.
Suffering and smiling.
Because being alive is something to rejoice. It's not how many meals that you eat a day that matters today. So now, government don't understand that coming out to read budgets, tell us about these policies, tell us about these plans. Nobody wants to listen to that again. Because people are like, oh, we've seen it all. So disclosing these contracts will help rebuilding trust again between government
and the masses.
Very important. Because when government discloses the terms of the contract that it has entered with companies on behalf of the people, the contract terms, all the annexes, whatever it is, the companies that are in charge and responsible for this, and what it stands to benefit the ordinary man in the streets, everybody will begin to look at it so that people will know where those issues are coming from. Because
who to hold responsible
hold responsible. Because at the moment it's like everything is on the government. Government may be saying, oh, we are doing this, we are doing, but because you're not disclosing these things, the contracts are not there. We are not seeing it. People cannot refer to it. People cannot know where to meet those things.
Or where it's going wrong.
Where it's going wrong. So
yes.
the whole thing shaded in secrecy is not helping anybody. But when government make it open, people can relate with what it is. And it builds that strong. People will begin to say, okay, we can now understand where it is coming from. You know the issue that happened about subsidy?
Yes.
Recently. All of a sudden, the fuel price went up.
After
because
Baba said subsidy gone.
Yes. The subsidy is gone.
Yes.
Little time we heard again that after the prices has gone up, that it has been, there are traces that these subsidies have also been paid
for. Yeah.
So
even the federal government had to admit at some point.
Yes, they are already doing investigation at the moment. So these are critical issues. And when government also make these contracts open, it brings their reputation up.
Okay.
Brings their reputation up before even the investors will begin to respect them. There are quite a number of countries that are already making their contracts open. It's not as if it's a Nigerian thing. A lot of companies, USA, UK, even Ghana have some of their contracts terms in the public domain. Ghana in the backyard here.
Well, at this level we are, do you think Nigeria is ready to make open such, contracts to the masses?
This is why this campaign is ongoing.
Yes, I know.
Because from the civil society
I'm talking about the part of the government this time.
Yes, from the civil society angle, we are doing this push.
Okay.
And we are doing this campaign. Yes, Nigeria has it in our plan. As we rightly said, it's about implementation.
Yes.
So if as citizens we are already pushing, you committed to this, it will surprise you to know that NETI established a contract transparency committee sometime in 2021. So we're already asking through this campaign, what has this committee done so far? Where are the issues and where are the challenges? Nigeria signed on to the 2023 EITI standard to open and publish all the contracts they have entered into before January 2021 and subsequent contracts. These are part of the things we are looking at. So government will stand a lot to benefit from it. It also helps government to see, because when citizens are pushing, government will now begin to discuss issue of contracts that they need to renegotiate. That contracts that they feel that, okay, maybe when we negotiated for this contract, we didn't really put in our house in order. They can come out to renegotiate it. It can also give them information for future negotiation of these contracts. These are because government stands a lot to benefit from it. So we want government to see the chances that it positions them for, what it posits for them, the chances, what they need to benefit, and for citizens, what is it for them when these contracts are opened.
Wow, thank you very, very much for being very elaborate there, Mrs. Ogechukwu. Now, in case you're just listening, we are here, myself and the guests in the studio, and we are looking at contract transparency. I am joined by Mrs. Ogechukwu and as well as Obin Collins. All right, and it's time for you to call us to let us know, what your thoughts are based on all you've heard. If you have questions for our guests in the studio, now will be the time for you to call so that they can attend to your questions, your concerns. And the phone lines are open: 0809 8888 or 0902 0020 925. Once again, 0809 8888 or 0902 0020 925. Now, madam, I also have another question. Right? You talked about this briefly when you were, mentioning the benefits of contract transparency. Why is it important? I want you to hit the nail on the head this time. Why is contract transparency important?
Okay, so let me talk from citizens' perspective now.
Okay, sorry, the phone lines are buzzing. Let's just attend to question. We'll get back to you.
All right.
Hello, good morning. Hello. All right, please do well to call us back if you can. Good morning.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning. This is Emmanuel from Abakaliki.
All right. Good to have you, Mano.
Thank you. I want to greet the guests in the studio.
Thank you, Emmanuel.
Good morning, Emmanuel.
Madam, you've spoken very well.
Thank you, sir.
But you are talking about ideal. That is why we say in Nigeria that the Nigerian governments are corrupt. Every day that we tell you that government cannot do everything. They're spending social amounts in doing this and doing that. But they won't tell you the amount of revenue they're generating. That the mining business of the team in Ebonyi, they are making millions. The past administration in Ebonyi made billions of naira from mining, but they didn't disclose to anybody. Our government is not accountable. They always hide the information. That is what is happening. No, you can never convince them to tell the public the nature of agreement that enters the company. They can disclose it. And that is corruption we are talking about. If they start today to do it, good for all of us. That's my contribution. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Emmanuel.
Okay, thank you so much, Emmanuel.
Okay. Hello, good morning.
Hello.
Good morning. What's your name?
All right. My name is Monday. I'm calling from Kogi State.
Okay. You're welcome, Monday.
All right. My regards to all the guests in this video.
Thank you, Monday, for calling in.
All right. You people spoke well. But one of the areas when we blame the government, we must look at ourselves. Individuals are highly corrupt than the government. When we talk of transparency, we know we are taught. Some people, the individual, the contractor, that is the middleman between us and the government. Let's say, for example, when they want to construct a road, let's say 25 kilometers, the person who is the middleman that's supposed to tell us, or the government that's supposed to tell us, the road has to cover 25 kilometers. You see that the person may have decided to construct 12 kilometers or 13 kilometers. The remaining money has been decided to individual pocket. And when the other people know in the community that it is supposed to extend to their own community, they will just give some 30% to these people that silence them. And the same people will tell you government is corrupt. Are you getting it? We must be sincere with ourselves. When we want to do things, and when government wanted to fight corruption, they must have some system. Let's say, for example, in terms of employment, if they want to employ 10,000 people, they'll say 10,000. If the account of the number is not up to 10,000, people will cry out. And by the time they say, the contractors wanted to hand over the social project, maybe solar power in the community, and the solar power could not be able to extend to the same community that they said they wanted to give them the solar power. The community has to cry out. But some they don't even know. Nobody know how they started. You can't question them. You don't even know who is even giving the project. All you see, they will just tell you 900 and something million or one cycles there. They will just throw all manner of drafts there. How much they spend, how much they go about it. If you calculate what they even install in the community, it's not up to 150. You will see 200 million. Want something amount. But by the time government decided to open everything to us, the contractor, the middleman is also scared because community will cry out. I know of a certain route. I don't want to call that community. If the humongous amount given to that man to construct that road, do you know what he used? He just used caterpillar to grade about 2 kilometers, the whole money divert. And he's telling them he's a contractor for how many years. Nobody can challenge him. But you don't know who will give him the job. How will you confront the person? And how will you fight the corruption? It will continue, my brother. God will bless us. God has already blessed us. But it will be happy in Jesus' name. Thank you.
Amen. Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us, Monday. Madam, you want to talk about it?
Okay, so for Monday and Emmanuel, I see where they are coming from.
Okay.
So, but it's not something that we wish to continue, and that is why this advocacy and this campaign for a change is being implemented in Nigeria. Okay, so and we can't succeed without host communities and citizens, all the masses, joining call to open up and disclose issues of contract so that an ordinary man in the street will understand what those contents are. As Monday rightly said, it's because the citizens or host communities do not have full information of what the contracts that are being implemented in their communities is all about.
Okay.
That is why the middleman can make away with a lot of money. So, but when you disclose some of this information, it helps anybody that knows about it to ask questions and even monitor those contracts and ensure that they comply with the terms of the agreement that have been reached.
Okay. All right, let's do more calls. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning. All right, do also call us back 0809 8888 or 0902 0020 Now, just before the calls came in, you were about to say something about why it's important.
Yes, that's already what I'm already doing.
Okay.
So because it's important when citizens know what the provisions are, they can monitor. They can monitor those contracts in their community because government cannot be everywhere.
True.
Yes, so if they can monitor it, they can report what is happening. In case there are breaches, they can report it. So they can also ensure that there is compliance. By that way, it helps government.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, let's do this call before we round off. Hello, good morning to you. Hello, good morning.
Okay, so I'm sure we've lost the person, but let me also say, because the time is already taken, citizens that are calling and expressing concern, they can join this movement. So they have avenues to join. They can follow us on our social media. They can report issues to their communities and also bring it to our attention.
Please, can you call? Sorry to interrupt, my dear, but can you mention your social media so that those who are listening can go check you guys out on social media? Okay,
so in the Twitter handle, they can look at our Twitter handle and make complaints. That's this didastryafrica.com. That's for Twitter. Now X. Okay, so when you say Didasry, it means DEDASRI, then Africa. Search it online and you see us on Twitter. You can also use this same address and see us on Facebook. So through this medium, you can come up with those issues. We have published what you pay members in the 36 states of the Federation that can help you reach your communities where it's happening.
All right, thank you so much, Mrs. Ogechukwu. Please, I'll in just 30 seconds, because we're already out of time. What word do you have for our listener?
Okay, contract disclosure is to the benefit of everyone, both government, civil society organizations, and the masses. I enjoin everyone to join this movement and be part of it because it's for our own benefit. Please report where you see and join the campaign. All
right, over to you, Obina. What are your final words?
The only thing I can say is that citizen action is part of democratic principles. If you believe in the democracy of Nigeria, then you should not leave the democracy only in the hands of the leaders. It's necessary as a citizen to actively participate in what is happening in your community, both in seeing government projects and also what is happening in extractive industries within your area. So when you see something, you have to say something. Agonizing in your bedroom is not going to be a solution. Rather, approach it systematically. You have representatives both as mobilized organized citizen groups like a civil society organization. You also have political representatives that can take the necessary action, but you have to discover your power as a citizen before you can take the necessary action. Thank you very much for listening.
Wow, thank you so much, Mrs. Ogechukwu, as well as Collins and Nebo. It was very informative listening to you. I'm sure the listeners at home would agree the same. I hope to do this sometime or some other time with you. All right?
Sure.
Yes, and for our listeners, please stay tuned to 92.5 Enugu's Dream FM as the Midday Express show continues. My name is Clinton Okoye.